listening to the Not So Christian in Me show, starring Southern Girl Denise.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the Not So Christian and Me show. Like you guys heard a few minutes ago, I'm the host, Southern Girl Denise. And today we have another great show. Today's show, we're going to be talking to an author, a mentor, a leader, and a four-starter basketball player. I had to throw that in there. Without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. James Nelson.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? How you doing, Southern girl Denise?
It's going good, going
It's
really good.
good.
Thank you so much for being our special guest. It's
I
a
appreciate you
pleasure
having
to
me.
have you. Thank you so
Yes.
much, so much. So we're gonna just go ahead and get started and jump on in here. For those who don't know, Mr. Nelson, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. So I'm a native Houstonian. I'm not sure where we're broadcasting at, but I'm a native
Okay.
Houstonian. I'm born and raised right here on the South Side. I'm not claiming any sets, but I was born right in South Park, Sunnyside, along with my four brothers, one of whom's deceased. So I've got my mom had five boys, and no girls. And the funny thing is that all my brothers and I all had daughters, our first kids, which is kind of funny. So
Oh
she's
wow.
got she's got all granddaughters. Um, again, growing up on the southeast side of Houston, in elementary, I was bussed over. Back in the 70s, 80s, they were bussing us over to the other side of town, and
Right.
so I was bussed over to the southwest side of Houston at that time, which was you're pretty much predominantly white schools. So I went from 100% African American to just about 99%, white, and it was just like a culture shock. And this is in the third grade, right? I was a part of a
Okay.
magnet program, and so I didn't realize it at the time, but those early, lessons and learnings helped me as I progressed, throughout my middle, high school, and college years. I ended up staying on the southwest side of town to go to school because that's where my friends were. I ended up graduating from Westbury High School on the southwest side of Houston. Played a little ball back in the day, like you said. A 3-year starter on varsity, two guard, and I was good enough. Hey, listen, great all Houston and all of that, but I was good enough to get a full scholarship to Midwestern State University, where I was a 4-year starter. Again, two guard. And by the way, just a little factoid I like to share. I'm
Go
still
ahead.
a
Go
13th.
ahead. Go ahead.
I'm still a 13th all-time leading scorer in the school's history.
Oh.
Yeah, you can Google it. Just Midwestern State James Nelson. It's on there. It's official. Um, but during my college days, I was a real student athlete, right? I wasn't just a jock. I was a student athlete. I was active in our Black Student Union on campus. I was also the vice president of student government. I was the president of the student senate. I got a funny story about that because I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I got voted in.
Oh.
I'm also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which I pledged to while I was in college. And again, earning my degree from Midwestern State in marketing. And so, once I graduated and came back home, that's where I started my pursuit of, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my career. I knew I wanted to be in leadership, but all my interviews went the same way. You don't have any experience. And quite honestly, outside of working in Blockbuster Video, I didn't have any management experience. Um, and so, because those doors kept closing, my entire goal and objective early on was to get as much experience as I could. And I wanted to get into a management level position as soon as possible. And so that's really where I started my journey in terms of developing as a leader. And so, 25 years later, I've been, global sales director for a cybersecurity company. I've been a director of operations for a wireless company, Verizon Wireless, for about 15 years. I've led across, multiple industries. So, leadership is ubiquitous. I mean, it crosses over. It doesn't matter what industry it's in. So, I've had a pretty successful career in leadership across, various, sectors.
I like the fact that you was persistent. You kept going. People
Yeah,
kept saying that, you don't have the qualifications, but that didn't stop you. You kept moving forward because
right,
leadership was already embedded inside of you. You just had
right.
to, position yourself at the right time to bring that out. So I applaud you for that,
No, thank you, thank
for
you.
following your dreams, and and helping other people along the way. Which brings me to my next question: like, how have you been able to use your leadership skills to help other people find those leadership roles or expand on their leadership skills on where they're currently at?
Yeah, that honestly, that's really my passion. I am passionate about developing leaders and helping people to, really realize their personal and professional potential. Like, where can I go in terms of, my professional career? As a leader, it doesn't matter what title you hold. I just invest in people, right? I want to see people growing and developing because I look back on my journey, and there were times where I didn't have a mentor and I didn't have someone to show me the way. Um, and oftentimes I was the only African American in the room. And so how do I handle, those situations? I had to learn that on the job, right? And not, step on some of those landmines. So the fact that I went through it, I want to help other young leaders, navigate, that course, right? It's not a straight line. There's zigs and zags, there's ups and downs. But you said something earlier, the persistence. You got to be consistent and persistent.
Yeah,
And if you
that's
do
true.
that, and you're willing to grow, then you'll get to that place, whatever that next place is.
Right. So tell us about your book, The Six C's of Leadership.
Yeah. So this book, when I tell you that it was something that just sort of over time, and I started, I'm always reflecting on kind of what worked, what was successful when you took over a new team or when you got promoted. What were some of the things that you did to help sort of that transition? And one of the biggest things was around getting people to buy into you. Like, you're the new leader. How do you get people to commit? Because not everybody has your best interests at heart. Not everybody wants to see you win.
That's so
And
true.
people are naturally resistant to change. They're always skeptical. What if the previous supervisor or manager was mean? What if they were unfair? What if they showed favoritism? What if they were, they didn't really develop? So you don't know what you're walking into. And so I started to think about what were some of the things that I did when I took over a new team. And I focused on these six things, and I went back as far as I could think, and I always did these things. I just didn't know what I was doing, right? I didn't know that I was doing it, but this is what I was doing. And so after several years of leading, I think I had about 1,100 people at Verizon at one time. It was a large operation here in
Okay.
Houston. Um, I started to think about, okay, what are some of the things that are the most critical for a new leader? And number one, the first C is culture. You've got to understand the culture of an organization, as you're walking into it, or a team, right? Because you can be taking over a new team. And I talk about, how do you identify and create a winning culture? Um, you have to first understand, what is the culture. Like, when you walk in the door, there's already a culture there before you got there,
Uh-huh.
right? And when someone says, hey, you think about the company culture, right? But then you've got, within the company culture, there's like specific departments. Well, they have a culture because they have different leaders that are leading those teams. And then you go all the way down to the team. Well, that team may have a subculture. And so one of the mistakes that new leaders make is that they come in and they try to change things too fast and too early without actually understanding what the culture is and who the key stakeholders are, who are the key influencers on the team. Um, like, one of my approaches is always, who's ever the most negative, the most difficult person to deal with, that's who I want to talk to first.
Yes, go there first.
Yeah, let me go there first. Because if you don't get them to buy in and commit, they are going to sabotage you the entire way. So the first thing is culture. Secondly is communication. The reality is that we are at a point in time where we have multiple generations in the workforce at the same time, right? You've got baby boomers, you've got Gen X, you've got millennials, you've got I mean, not X, but Y, Z, and whatever the other letters are now. They're all working at the same time. And you cannot communicate to everyone the same way. So, what I talk about in communication is establishing those communication protocols. How do people like to communicate? Communication is two-way. It's not just what you want to get across, it's you listening to them and understanding how they like to be coached. So I established kind of the communication expectations and protocols. Are we going to meet weekly? Is it biweekly? Is it a monthly meeting? What is our cadence around us communicating?
Yeah,
Uh, you know, a lot of if you think about the new generation, man, they text a lot. They don't really talk necessarily, right?
that's the
It's
new
all in
way of
it's a new
communicating.
way of communicating, but things can get lost in translation. So you're old head trying to communicate with this new generation, and everything is getting all crossed. So I talk about the importance of communication, um, consistency as a leader. So me being a director, and I've got senior managers, I've got supervisors. One thing that will pull at the thread of trust in your organization is if there's inconsistency at the leadership level. Meaning, if one supervisor does something one way and another does it another way as it relates to people, it's going to get around that someone's being fair or inconsistent or they're showing favoritism. Well, you'll let John get away with something, but when Susie does it, you don't say anything to her. There must be something going on. And
Yeah.
so, if people don't see leaders being consistent, it tears away at the culture, really. And so, I just talk about the importance of being consistent. And I'll start with those three because if you don't do those three well, you're not going to foster an environment where you collaborate, which is the fourth C. So once you establish a culture, you establish how you communicate, people see that you're going to be fair and consistent across the board. Now they're letting down their guards and they're willing to collaborate with one another. Because otherwise, think about this. I'm the new manager coming on board. People are trying to get favor with me. People are trying to see how they can position themselves. Nobody's trying to collaborate and make everybody else look good. It's like it's all about me.
That's true.
So who's going to share best practices? You think I'm going to show you what's working for me so that you can look better in front of the boss than I do?
Hmm.
No. Once you establish that that's not how this works, then you'll create an environment where people want to collaborate. And when the team wins, everybody wins,
So
right?
you go in these particular orders.
I do. I do. I
Okay.
go in these order. I focus on the culture first, and all I do is listen. I schedule, skip levels, one-on-ones. I just talk to people, and what do you think about this, or what's working, what's not. I ask three questions. Hey, what's working? What's working well? What can we change? Right? And
Hmm.
what can I do to help? I ask everybody the same three questions, right? And so going through these four stages, um, we get to collaboration, and then connection, right, is the fifth C, connection. And when I'm talking about connection, I'm saying you have to connect with people on a personal level before they will trust, believe, and follow you.
That's so true. I was thinking about that earlier about the power of connecting with people. People will go
Yeah,
over and beyond to help you if they have a
right.
connection with you.
If they have connection with you. And
Hmm.
here's the thing, in order for you to give direction, you have to make a connection first. So I can't just come in and just start telling you what to do when I haven't talked to Denise about anything that's going on with her, what some of her challenges are with her team, her organization, but I'm telling her what to do, right? And I have not made a connection with Denise and ask her anything about her business, what are her challenges, what I can help with. Denise is, do you have any kids? Kind of what's your background like? Where are you from? I'm
Yeah,
trying to get to know you first. Oftentimes I'll have people come into my office and they're expecting to like just go over KPIs or results. And I'm like, no, I just wanted to meet with you. How you doing? How's everything going? And they shift a little bit. I'm like, no, we don't have to talk about that right now.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
already know the numbers anyway. How are you doing? You know what
Right.
I mean?
That's
How
very
you
important.
doing?
You know, you the finding out how the person is actually feeling, because the more people know how much you care about them, the more they'll be able to, to work better in a
Right.
better environment.
And honestly, it's genuine to me. I genuinely care about how people are doing, and so the connection piece is so important. Um, I'll say this at my current company, when I started like 7, 8 months ago, but I published my book in November of 2021.
Okay.
Now, a little backstory. I had written a book and I was going through the process of getting it published. I was at that time a global sales director for a cybersecurity company. I had a team in London. I had a team here in the Galleria. You know, it was 13 business development reps. When I tell you it was good, right? No drama, no issues. I had my team. I can go over to London every now and again. It was a good deal. I had been out of the call center game for about a decade, and I vowed I'd never go back. I didn't want to lead a large team again. But when I was getting closer to publishing my book, I said, "Where are you going to test this at? Like, where are you going to prove these concepts and these theories that you were? Where are you going to show that these succeeds can actually work?" And out of the blue, a recruiter called me about this role. And the only reason why I took the job was because I wanted to implement and see if these succeeds and if I could change the results in this particular location, which I did. Right, this
Wow.
center was one of the arbitrage for the company. They were lowest performing, always issues. No engagement really at the leadership level. Within 45 days, this went from one of the bottom performing centers to like, oh, the client is like very impressed. How did you guys turn it around? Now I say everything turned around when I got there, but
Yeah.
but I focused on the team and the leaders, and what I realized was that the prior leaders didn't really demonstrate any trust or belief in the team, and so they just kind of gave up. So
Yeah.
my first all hands meeting with the leaders, my last slide, because I went through a little slide deck with them, was it just said trust. And this 2 weeks after, I mean maybe 4 weeks after I'd been there, I said, I trust you. I trust you as a leader. I trust you're going to do the things that you say they're supposed to do. I trust you to coach your team. I trust you to do your job until I don't, until you give me a reason not to.
Yeah.
So I led with trust, and then I think that empowered them. Listen, it's okay to make mistakes. You know what I mean? It's okay. I mean, like maybe you don't know. I'm here to help. Let's talk about why you made that decision. Let's talk about what was your reason. It could be a policy or procedure that is driving that decision. But let's talk about it. And then once we get that connection, if you do those five well, you'll get commitment, and you'll get that commitment early. And that's kind of the whole premise of the book. And it's an easy read. It's almost like Who Moved My Cheese. It's not even a thick book at all.
Okay.
It is a very simple, easy read, um, but powerful in terms of the key takeaways. So much
Yeah.
so that the president of my current company, she was following me on LinkedIn, and she reached out to me and after one of our meetings, executive leadership meetings, and she said, "Hey, I saw your book. Can I get a discount?" And I was like, "No, you can't get a discount.
You're
It
not
ain't but
special.
it, it ain't but $11. I mean, it's not even that much." Um, but I said, I said, "But you know what? Send me your address. I'll send you a copy. But I won't give you a discount, but I'll just give you a copy."
Yeah.
And so I did. And no less than 2, 3 weeks later, she said, "Hey, I got it. I liked it. I think we should buy copies for all the leaders in Houston," which
Oh
the
wow.
company eventually did. So I bought about 100 books. Um, company paid for it, obviously. Um,
That's a blessing right
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. So
Good.
so you sow that one seed, um, and you get that harvest. But when I tell you that was my vision before I even started working at the company, that's what I wanted to happen, because I was right at the point where I was about to buy the books myself and just give. But shortly after that thought, she said, "Go and order it." I'm like, "Okay, let me pull
Good.
out the corporate Amex and go and place that order."
and
So
and how has that been so far?
The blessing of it all is that I had so many of my leaders, because I would have, for my managers, my senior managers, my supervisors, and even my team leads. Um, so many of them received it, read it, and they would quote things to me from the book. It's funny. I was interviewing, doing like second and third round interviews for some of the team leads that were applying for soup, and I tell you, every last one of them referenced something in my book during the interview process.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they got something out of it, and they even at one of my town hall meetings, they did a readout for each one of the C's. I had each of my managers to get with the teams to talk about, hey, what'd you get from that chapter? And then they came back and presented to me what they got from it, and then some of the actions that they were going to take to implement.
Okay, okay. Now, do you use the 6 C's in your personal life and other relationships?
They do. It's transferable, right? It's not well, culture. Listen, when I think about culture in a relationship, I'm thinking about y'all got to be connected, right? You got to know kind of where people have been, what they've been through. Um, you've got to, you know, I kind of use the analogy of when you're at the mall and you're looking for a store, and you go to the little map, and the first thing you look for says, you are here, right? So in a relationship, to me, understanding where the culture is, you have to understand where the person is in the relationship, and they have to know where they are, right? So
Right.
it's big on locating where you are personally,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the culture, the communication, consistency, all of that is applicable relationally as well. So I may not use them all like in that order in my
Yeah,
relationship,
because it's a little
but
bit different. Yeah.
for me and my wife, I mean, communication, consistency, and collaboration and connection, and commitment, heck, all of them
Yeah.
are really, something that we thrive on in our relationship. We do all of those well.
That's good. That's good. What advice could you give someone who's getting ready to step into a leadership role? Like one key advice.
I would say for a new leader, um, as you're stepping into a new role, be okay with being uncomfortable and stepping into the new role. Another example, we were at um, PF Chang's one night, my wife and I. And so we're sitting at the bar, and the manager, she's serving us, and she's kind of, like, hey, how you guys doing? So my wife starts talking about the book to the manager, or just talking about leadership, because she was noticing how she was leading the bar reps there. And so she was talking about leadership in the book, and and so the bar manager said, hey, yeah, I'm waiting on the young lady, which happened to be our bartender. I'm waiting for her to apply because we need some more managers, right? And I'm just waiting for her to apply. I said, oh, okay. I said, nice young girl. So the manager leaves, and then our bartender comes over, and I don't can't remember her name, but I'll just say Lucy. I said, hey, so how come you haven't applied for the manager position yet? She's like, what? What are you talking about? I said, I was talking to your the director, and she said that you were a rock star. So, and she's waiting on you to apply. Why haven't you applied? And so she's kind of stood back. She says, yeah, I'm just really nervous because I've been, going from a peer to a boss and
Yeah.
managing people that you were once peers with is
Like
is
challenge.
challenging.
Yeah.
And she had a fear. She said, well, I don't think they're going to take me serious. And I said, why wouldn't they? And the feedback that I gave her, in fact, I went and got a book out of my car, and I signed it, and I wrote, before we even had this conversation, I wrote something in there. I told her that, I said, you're ready now, right? And so when she was telling me she wasn't ready, I said, read what I just wrote. And she said, she just actually started crying, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah. So because what I was saying to her, she had a fear of stepping into that next level because of what other people would think. And
Right.
and one of the analogies that I gave her, I said, anytime there's elevation, something's gonna have to get let go, or somebody,
That's so true. That is
right?
so true.
Think about a rocket ship. As it goes higher and higher into the atmosphere, it's releasing, right? it doesn't get out into space until it's let go all of that extra weight and baggage so that it can get out. Now, it needed that propulsion to get up there, but once you get there, some things you got to let go. And so I just said, hey, it's okay. People will self-select. Um, it's okay that people feel some type of way, but be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you're not going to know it all, but be
Right.
willing and coachable. So that's what I would tell new leaders.
Definitely be willing and
Hmm.
coachable.
Right,
Yes. You have to be open minded going into those roles.
right.
That was some really good advice. Now, have you found out if the girl is still in that same position? Did you ever
You
go
know what?
back?
You know what? We plan to go back because this is about a month ago, and we told her, say we're going to come back, and I want to see, I want to know if you've moved on to the next
Yeah.
position. And then we even talked to the manager about it, and she was like, "Yeah, I got a lot of new leaders," and I said, "Hey, I come in and I talk to new leaders. Let's get you on the calendar." Um, in fact, I went out to Target, and one of the store directors and executive HR personnel invited me to come out. They ordered about 20 books. This is through my wife's high school friend who's a director at Target, and she had ordered a book, and so she referred me to the HR executive here in Houston, the Houston area, and he reached out and he ordered the books, and it was going to end at that. But I said, hey, you know what? If you want me to come out and talk to the leaders, I mean, I normally charge for that. I said, but since this is your first order, I'll just come out and share just some insights with them if you want, and I won't even charge you for it. Now that's not for everybody else. That was just him. He was the
Yeah.
first one, but and so I want to be clear, if anybody listen. So I ended up going out to a Target and having a great time with their store leaders and just really giving them some real insights. And the thing about it, what I'm talking about it doesn't matter if you're in retail, doesn't matter if you're in security, doesn't matter if you're in customer service. It's leadership. I can talk leadership to any industry, anytime, anywhere, any place. And so that was a great opportunity too. So
That's awesome. Now, how can we purchase your book?
it's actually available on Amazon, but you can get to the Amazon link on my website. Just go to my website, jamesnelsonleads.com. I see it just popped up right there. Click on there, and it'll give you the link to the Amazon,
Okay.
and that's where you can order it.
Okay. Okay. And how can we find you on social media in case we want to collaborate with you?
I am on Instagram, I'm sorry, James Nelson Leads. I'm on LinkedIn, just James Nelson, and my Facebook is just I am James Nelson, so that you can find me on Facebook. And where else am I? Of course, my website, jamesnelsonleads.com.
Okay. Okay. Well, great. Great. Thank you so much. Now, before you go, do you have any final thoughts tonight?
No, I want to say I appreciate you for reaching out and just for the platform. Um, I'm very passionate about just like leadership development. I'm
Mhm.
available for group coaching, individual coaching. um, I'm also completing my John Maxwell certification as well, so I'll be certified to teach all of John Maxwell's curriculum.
Oh, good.
He's just a guru on leadership. The book I'm reading now is that everyone communicates but few connect, right? Which is just kind of
Yes.
an example what I talked about. Um, so yeah, just definitely reach out. I'm looking forward to whatever God has for me, and I know my gift is the gift of leadership and to help people um, grow in that area.
Well, that's awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you once again. Thank you so much for being our special guest. I pray that God will continue to use you in a mighty way with your gift and change lives all around the world. Um, so please, guys who are tuned in, please support Mr. James Nelson. If you guys are interested in being a guest on the Not So Christian and Me Show, please reach out to us on Instagram and Facebook at the Not So Christian and Me Show, and feel free to sow us a seed via Cash App, $TNSCIM. Until next time, remember that no matter what you guys are going through, God will always see you through. Stay blessed up. Bye.
Bye bye.